So, a quick update on the total altcoin market. It looks like we're getting primed for capitulation on basically every time frame. Let's start off with the daily. Now, it talks about this. This looks like the exact fractal that played out over on Bitcoin. However, it's slightly different. You can see that technically this is a massive bear flag to the downside, followed up by another bear flag to the downside. However, there's a large difference between the poles. So what I'm just going to focus on is the asymmetrical triangle. We'll talk about the fibs in a second, but let's look at the VPVR, the volume profile for the visible range. So you have this fractal over on the total altcoin market. When you're hovering round about between 600 and 700 billion, this is where we were kind of lollygagging on over on the total altcoin market. You lollygagged in this asymmetrical triangle, broke out basically at the apex of it, came all the way back down, formed another perfect asymmetrical triangle, and now we're starting to break to the downside. So just like we did over here, you can see if I extrapolate this box over, you can see this was where the largest amount of volume was traded in the visible range. Bear in mind, it's also taking in data from back here, so you can see there's a decent amount of touch points over on here, and the fixed range, which we will be talking about in a second, is also in accordance to this. But you can basically see, as soon as you fell to the downside of the asymmetrical triangle, as soon as you started gearing up that momentum, we really just massively capitulated to the downside, and that area is basically where we're sitting at right now. So you can also see, yes, there is a decent amount of volume right here, but there was also a good amount of volume here. So we're mainly looking at the key areas on the volume profiles, and as soon as you capitulated beneath this level, I'm not even going to mark the, well, conveniently the breakdown is actually taking us down to the next level of the VPVR support. So from here, we subsequently capitulated about 33%. Now, if you have watched my altcoin videos before, I've been saying for the total altcoin market, I've been predicting a 40% drop over on the total 2, which is once again altcoin market. We've only moved down about 8% so far, so if I do move this over, I would subsequently be thinking from this breakdown of the VPVR volume profile range over here, this would literally be about another 35% drop, and this was almost exactly what we saw over here. A little bit of an overshoot, and what's interesting about this is if we zoom out, let me get rid of this. If we zoom out and head over to the weekly time frame, you can see that this is also in accordance with the volume profiles for the fixed range. Now, you start getting a lot of volume over on here, and then as you cascade from the fixed range, so bear in mind this is taking in data points from here to here, you really don't have any more data traded to the downside until you reach these much more brutal levels. As you can see, everything just starts to taper off in the higher time frames for the fixed range, taking in data from the entirety of the bull run. But looking at the VPVR, you can also see, you know, as you start to taper below this box, there's really not much holding you up until over on the volume profile for the fixed range, you come into this big cluster over here. And if I extrapolate this out, you can actually see, so this would be purely looking at the fixed range, and if I pull this up a tiny bit to incorporate this huge jump in the volume profiles in this one, you can see there is a huge area of support right down here for the altcoin market. And it makes sense when you look at the market structure, because when you do look at the run up for the altcoin, I mean, it was pretty much a straight run to the upside, and every now and then you know kind of consolidated for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then on the 6th week you would blow up to the upside. So we've got a large cluster down here, just like we've got a large cluster over here. You know, once again, you take that massive run to the upside, then you spend about 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks before taking the ride up on the 5th week, which is why this is a weaker cluster than this one down here. And subsequently, next cluster is all the way down here, where on the weekly time frame, this yellow line, which is the 300 week moving average, resides. And this is exactly why I've been saying, in my opinion, this is why we're heading down to this level. Now, since I did make this prediction, it was, you know, up here at like a 40% prediction, but obviously the 300 week moving average is taking in data points from the past 300 weeks. So we're replacing data points from, you know, 300 weeks ago. Let's just take a quick look at how far away this was. So as you can imagine, the 300 week moving average is literally replacing data points from all the way down here. So the 300 week moving average is replacing data points at 370 million. And what's it replacing it with? It's replacing it with valuations up here at 486 billion. So obviously the 300 week is going to heavily run up to the upside. This is a long-term moving average, so I really wouldn't be surprised, you know, once again moving this up, because this is going to move up every week. I do think we're going to come down to this range from where we are right now. This is literally about another 34% drop to the downside over on the total altcoin market. So that's what I think is going to be happening in the short term. If we do also look at our Fibonacci's, plain and simple, if I clear this up for a second, hide the VPVR, keep it super nice, super simple. From your low to your high, and then I believe this was the range that we were looking at. You have a lower time frame 786 Fibonacci that you are literally residing at this moment in time. So this box down here over on the Fibonacci's is basically your last lines in the sand, and as you can see, you know, there's not a lot of volume traded as you do come down to this 786. So, you know, as you capitulate beneath these levels, basically beneath the level that we're at right now, you're very likely to see a takeout of the first 786. You're going to massively capitulate, volume's going to come in, people are going to get suckered out of the altcoins. Well, I don't want to say suckered out of the altcoins because, you know, people are going to sell, it is what it is, but nonetheless, as you do break down below this level, 460 million, and this is also nice because you can basically see, if we head back over to the daily time frame, I think this almost beautifully lines up with this asymmetrical triangle that we've got playing out over here, just like we had with the previous fractal. So you can see, if you do start to break to the downside of this in the next 1 or 2 or 3 days, you really will start to see that momentum start to kick in. And even if you're being super conservative, from where we are right now, I always do this, the wrong tool, from where we are right now, you're going to witness at least another 18.39% flush to the downside for the altcoins. And bear in mind, this is incorporating all the altcoins. So if you see, you know, altcoins like Ethereum and Solana go down 10-20%, you're going to witness all the shit coins in the top 100, 200, 300, 1,000 go down maybe another 50, 60, 70%. And once again, this is being conservative, considering that we would be moving down to a 398 billion valuation. In my opinion, it's a lot more logical to expect a break below the 786 Fibonacci and to come down to the 300-week moving average. But why is it logical to expect a break below the 300-week moving average? Because the trend is your friend until the end, and even if we were looking at previous cycles from down here, because bear in mind, I've got a micro fib over here, so, you know, if I do draw this up here, it doesn't matter if I'm drawing this from here, or it doesn't even matter if I'm drawing this from here, drawing this from here. You can see no matter how conservative I try and be, even if I say, okay, let's draw the Fibonacci's from here, you know, we can pull this all the way back. You do not hold the 786 Fibonacci in a bear market. You just don't. You know, altcoins do not hold the 786. This is your 786. And as you can see, you know, we were slowly chopping down on this. And I imagine in the lower time frames, just like we have a micro fib right over here. Oh, this beautifully lines up with both the 786 Fibonacci's over on this one. You must have had a micro fib that caused a lot of momentum shifting before that. Almost all of them line up pretty beautifully. So once again, you know, as you do take out this 786 Fibonacci, you're going to gear up for a massive move to the downside. You're going to head down to that next level of support down on the VPVR, and that's really not going to come into play until you're round about this 300-week moving average. So once again, in my opinion, altcoins are setting up for a capitulation. About another 34% to the downside is what I expect to be playing out for the altcoin market very soon. So hence the name of the title, altcoins look like they are primed for capitulation. As you do fall below these volume profile ranges, do not expect to see your favorite altcoins get absolutely slaughtered. And also, to wrap up the video, I have been talking about over on my channel, if you do watch me, if you're new to the channel, warm welcome. I've been talking about how bullish the Bitcoin dominance looks at this moment in time. I think we've got hidden bullish divergence that was playing out into regular bullish divergence, or maybe it's the other way around, but we've basically got double bullish divergence over on the Bitcoin dominance. Bitcoin dominance looks very strong right now. I think it's going to gear up for that next move to the upside. Bitcoin's going to outperform altcoins. When does Bitcoin normally outperform altcoins? In a bear market. When the altcoins normally outperform Bitcoin? In a bull market. So subsequently, if you're witnessing the Bitcoin dominance going up, it means Bitcoin's outperforming altcoins, which probably means we're in a bear market, we're in a capitulation type event. And because of this, it would make sense for the altcoin market to take one last massive leg to the downside. Once again, your major area of support is right down here at the 786 Fibonacci at 394 billion. And once again, to reiterate, look back at previous market structures, look back at previous altcoins. It doesn't matter if you're looking at the strongest altcoins, you know, ADA, ETH, I was about to say XRP, but you know, that's obviously not a very strong altcoin. No matter what altcoin you look back at from 2018, they do not hold the 786 Fibonacci. It just doesn't happen. So do not expect for us to drop down, come down to this area of support, about another 19-20% drop from where we are, and then have a huge bounce and the bear market bottom is in. I think we're in for one last capitulation. Altcoins are getting primed for a capitulation just like Bitcoin is, but as the Bitcoin dominance is going up, I think you know which one should get hit the worst. That's all I've got for you today. As always, my friends, cowboy out. Peace.